sweet. Yeah. So my guest today is Tris. How do you say your last name?
Dyer.
Tris Dyer. Ah, nice.
Hmm.
Tris, I know you own a couple companies and you're heavily into pay media, email. Can you tell me like high level, like how do you get into this industry and what do you currently do?
Yeah, good question. I got into this business basically years ago when I was in school. I got a real kind of a hankering after kind of understanding why people do certain things because it's not always clear and it's always a bit strange and a bit kind of interesting to me, like why people do weird things, like buy expensive cars when they can't afford them and things like that. So
Mm,
consumer psychology was
mm,
a big passion of mine when I was younger. And so I
mm,
went to study psychology in college. And from
mm,
there, I really got into the consumer psychology side of things, understood that,
mm.
the why of people in the world. From there, I guess I naturally built into running ads. I was running ads
Gotcha,
for
gotcha.
small, medium businesses. They were kind of mom and pop shops. There was
Mm-hmm.
people doing haulage was one of my first clients. There was somebody
Nice.
doing
And
uh,
you, a lot of your clients are in UK, right?
well, at the time they were actually in Ireland because I'm from Ireland originally, so I'm actually based here. So that's how I got into it. I got learning very quickly. I jumped straight in, and we pitched bars, and we ended up winning some business there, and because it was mid recession, so there was a global
Yeah.
recession where people couldn't get a job, so I went out and tried and do it myself,
Hmm,
and
hmm.
yeah, it was a lot of fun
Wait, so
because
tell me a little bit. When do you started on your own, like as a founder? Like I see
oh.
you probably were you like an operator at one point? You also
Mm.
a campaign buyer, like heads down, but then you turned into a founder, right?
Yeah, yeah. So, like after college, I left and I started my own business. Realized that I actually spend a lot more time chasing invoices than actually doing the work. So I was like, I'm going to work for someone
Mm,
else. So I got in.
yeah.
I honed my
Mm,
craft. I met some really good people that showed me not only how to buy but also the economics behind business. So
mhm,
I worked my way up to Dentsu then, which was it's a holding company, but I was a paid social director there. And I got to really understand a bit more about, I guess, the basics of how you communicate with businesses, but actually how commerce really works. And I got to understand,
mhm.
some of the larger brands in the world, the IAGs, the Kellogg's of the world, where there's
Sure, sure,
not
sure.
just advertising is advertising that has to make money at scale. So I understood that, but my real passion at the time was D2C e-commerce, and the reason being is because it's such an easy closed loop, spend versus revenue. There's no kind of ambiguity in the middle. So that's really a lot of the fun
Right.
came from on my side that I really
And the revenue
enjoy.
data is really
Yeah,
clear.
the data is very clear. No matter how much people try to tell you it's not clear, how much did you spend? How much did you make? And that's
Yeah,
the bottom line. So
yeah.
that's really kind of where my passion came from is kind of experience and going, I really like this. And to be honest, I've said this to many a person, I do this for free, only the fact I've got a business running to run, you
Nice.
know?
Well, so it sounds like you're very into why people do this, right? The psychology, consumer
Absolutely.
behavior, and I think that really is the core and hasn't really changed much. It sounds like you got the opportunity to really got into different phase and scale and size
Mm.
of that concept and able to implement that idea throughout in different tools.
Yeah. Yeah.
Therese, walk me through a day of your life right now. How do you stay relevant?
Absolutely. My wife asked me that a lot. Are you still relevant? I think the thing I would say in terms of relevance, it's making profit will always be of utmost relevance. How you make profit, I suppose, is the question that needs to be asked. I mean, in this day and age, a lot of my day is starting well, say starting to is changing our agency. Both agencies are moving towards a more AI native approach.
Gotcha.
Whereas,
Yeah.
it's something that's really become pertinent in the last kind of 6 to 12 months. That we're starting to see you can't just have a chat GPT account and hopefully it helps you. We have to literally plan our way into how we're doing it. My day to day is very much doing that, but also understanding the lives of business owners. So I speak to every one of our clients every month. And so the way it works
Mm,
is we
okay.
understand what the pain points that they're going through, understand what's happening there, and I then translate that into what we can do for our business or for those businesses. In my day to day, like we're sitting here, what, Friday evening, chilling out. This week was very much focused on how this new Claude update has actually impacted business
Got you,
owners
got
and
you, got
how
you.
they can
Okay.
actually actively use it to analyze and make decisions. And that's something that
Yeah, yeah,
we're
yeah.
empowering our businesses that we work with to do make those own decisions. We shouldn't, like, we'll help you with them and we'll go and say this is how we're going to do our marketing and these are the levers we're pulling in the marketing, but you're going to have that information internally, because that's really at the crux
Got
of
you.
it. The speed is what moves the needle in this industry, and if you're not
How big is your
meeting,
team? How big is your team?
we have a team of 22 in Webtopia, a team of 7 in
Wow.
Host.
Okay. Oh, okay. Are they like in the same location or separate?
Oh no, that's the thing. So they're all over the world. So we've got people anywhere from
Okay.
Argentina to Seattle, and then
Oh,
from
shit.
kind of
Wow. So you must like spend a lot of time communicating, and like getting
yes,
sync with
yeah,
both clients and your internal team stakeholders.
absolutely, yeah. We talk about the three C's of marketing. There's communication, communication, communication. It's the three most important things,
How
right?
how do you make sure that you're doing an absolute, I can tell you're very comfortable at communicating and you're very easy to talk to. Like, how do you make sure you're available to all of your teams at this age and that still efficient instead of bottleneck for your team?
Absolutely. I think the point that you mentioned at the end is probably how we make myself most available is that I'm not the dependence. I'm not the linchpin. I'm not the reason why people are able to do it. The empowerment always has to go back to the team from my standpoint. I can't be the
Hmm.
one to make a decision on how we're going to run this campaign or how we're going to do that. I will consult with them and will help them, but they have to be empowered to be able to do it. There are tools. Obviously, we've got Slack and ClickUp and everything else. We've got bloody WhatsApp at this point. But I think I'm available, but the team know that they're trusted to have the power. The thing is that I would say is their why matches my why. And when we hire them, that's one of the things that we make sure that
Got
we
you,
do. It's these
got you,
people aren't
got you.
just
Okay.
making decisions for the crack. They're making their why is building businesses, and like our why as the company is we create commercial masterpieces.
Hmm.
That's our thing. So I talk
Hmm.
about commercial masterpieces there. It's like this is a masterpiece of business. It's good financially. The products are working. People are interested in it. It's changing the world. It's making good decisions. And something that we're, I guess, making sure that we're aligning with that on that is when we're doing all of our changes, we're doing that to make sure that we're focused on the business's why. And that's how I
Hmm.
know that they're going to make good decisions. So when you're asking about how we communicate what's necessary as frequent as possible.
Got you, got you. Really cool. So do you still like do the old school, like I used to come from agency, very traditional agency, and we have very big clients and they are big corporate, many, many layers, and we just only touch a very small layer. And our
Yeah.
interface is so traditional. They want DAC, they want Excel reports.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Yeah.
people still do this anymore, but
Yeah.
it's crazy. Like if you're not paying attention, there are a lot of so-called agency work. It's completely zero
Mm.
value.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
just really curious, like, what is the modern day when you running your agency, talking to your client? What do you talk to your like? What do you think about like where can you add value in those
Yeah,
communications?
that's great. Great point. I think we add value through clarity. That's one of the biggest things that we're doing. And I
Ah,
guess AI has massively ramped that up. And that's because, I mean, it was easy to do because we were so clear on what we were doing. So, for
yeah.
example, you talk about agency decks, right? So you're going to make a deck. This is what's
Hmm.
happening. That's entirely automated now, entirely. So we bring our data. It's how we've managed our data is we bring it into a data warehouse. We overlay that with an LLM that will then analyze the reports, and then it will build through Claude. It will build our own reports in our format.
Hmm.
That will then pass it
Right.
to an agent or person on our side. They know that the data is
Hmm.
correct. They know the data is relevant because we use call recording software on our calls, in our Slack and in our
Hmm.
emails that will actually bring in the context into that as well. So we have AI connecting
Right.
all of them together. But then what we do is we also then check it for like sense check it. It's still a human driving it forward. Because at the end of the day, we don't talk about human teammates. We talk about tools that we use.
Hmm.
So the
Right.
first person to discover using a calculator or somebody who's using an electric screwdriver for the first time, they realize the power of using this and they're like, whoa, how did I ever survive without it? I don't know if you've ever put IKEA furniture together without an electric screwdriver. nightmare. So it's the same with actually doing agency work without AI. It
Mhm.
does a lot of the
Yeah.
automations for you, and I'm still a true believer of that. You have to have a human in the loop, but it's going to massively
Right.
improve the efficiency. It's taken quite a lot of time. Another thing that we've done is we work quite closely with Meta, and we build tools that will allow us to update and upload ads, where it used to take somebody 3 hours to upload a bunch of ads, less than
Hmm.
3 minutes. I actually brag about this the other day. I landed from I was flying into Dublin, and by the time the plane landed
Hmm.
to get to the gate, we had uploaded 15 ads,
Mm.
and it's kind of like, well,
Yeah.
that's
I
in this
can't help
in
but to think, so I
go.
didn't mean to cut you off there, but I can't help but to think that you evolved, meaning like you as an agency, every agency sort of evolved. Like if you listen to what people are flexing for their client these days, are
Mm,
so different from what you would be asking like to do. Like it sounds like there's a lot of agency these days seems to be doing like infrastructure work, ensure there's a clean process,
mm.
things are getting well filtered so that it's building more of a system embedding instead of just providing the actual content.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it lines back up with what I was saying is it can't be a dependency on one person innovating. Everybody has to be able to innovate.
Yeah,
So part of the why
gotcha.
is like we're innovating to do something rather than just playing with it. I don't know if you've gotten Claude Code, but if you get in Claude Code and if you've got a Claude Max account, what will happen is you'll go and do loads of stuff, but you'll end up at the end of it with nothing because you're not going in a direction. You just can do a load of stuff really quickly. Everyone in our company has a Claude Pro account, and some of the higher users have Claude Max accounts, and that's something that we're very much integrated with because the idea here is that people are in like we want to speed them up. They're innovating in the direction rather than just doing the stuff. So it's one of the things
Love
that
that.
some agency owners are looking at it in a cost saving measure, which is probably the wrong way to look at it because if you look at it in a cost saving measure, it suggests that your business and your output is reductive, that you can actually start to reduce it down based on the output that's coming from an AI. Whereas if you look at the way there are some companies out there, some kind of larger tech companies, they're looking and going, well, we can do more of this with AI. So we're going to keep going higher and higher. So now instead of us kind of getting like sending a deck on a weekly basis, that comes across daily. Here's what happened in the last 3 days.
Mm,
This is all the information you need to go and do today.
yeah,
The buying is agentic, so
I
all
love
this
that.
the time spent is actually
Yeah,
strategizing going forward, using the tool to strategize. And there's so much more you can do. It's
I
so
love
much
that.
more exciting.
It sounds like what you're saying is that instead of looking at this set of tools as a massive reduction in efficiency improvement, you're really looking at potential growth, right?
Mm.
You're
Yeah.
always looking at that. And then you also pointing at to a very clear, well, verse through the team and stakeholders, the
Mm.
direction that you want to go, and just want to make
Absolutely.
sure you've got these tools that can flex towards the way you want to go.
Yeah, and this is kind of goes back to what I was saying though is our why is what drives us. So the reason why we innovate the way we're doing and our team do on an ongoing basis is because we're so clear on that.
Yeah.
They're clear on that, and the type of people we are is not to go, I'm going to do this and sit on the beach and just sip my ties.
Okay, so can you give me an example of what you mean by like ROIs? Because I think maybe I'm about to segue to this next point, kind of
Mm,
similar here. Is I think judgment versus effort is so important now, right?
hmm
If you have the wrong judgment, lots of effort might result in very little things, especially now,
mm,
wrong tool or wrong process could cost you a lot, right? 'Cause you
yeah.
might thinking like years of building, but right judgment might be seconds and minutes,
hmm
right? How do you make sure your whys are allowing you to have good judgment versus effort in this case?
Yeah, I guess it's a good point. I guess the way I phrase that is work smarter, not harder. It's something that it works very well. I think the how we're clear in terms of the overall metric is we're very clear on each. Not every business has the same metric. Some might have a revenue growth goal.
Mm,
Some
okay,
might have a
okay.
profit goal. So it's clarity. It's getting clarity from the business themselves of how they want to grow themselves. Because we can advise, we can suggest, we've got
Mm,
experience across the board. We own our own businesses. A lot of our team run their own businesses. The question then becomes with the client or the partner that we're working with is, well, how do they want to grow?
yeah,
So it's when you say, how do we
yeah.
get clear that like what, because we could drive MER, we could drive ROAS, we can drive whatever. It's more so how does that ladder up to the growth of their business? And so, for example,
Hmm.
we'll talk to a person earlier on, and actually the way that we kind of went through was they were like, oh, we need to acquire 2,000 new customers in May, because if we don't acquire
Hmm.
2,000 new customers in May, those people won't return for our sale in July.
Hmm.
So that's the
Hmm.
type of like we have those conversations,
Got you,
not just
got
at
you.
my level, but at the campaign manager level and the account. The person
Right.
who's running it has those kind of conversations. And the reason why we're doing that is because we're going off and doing all that work, spitting out all of this information, but also to optimizing creative and ads and everything else in a certain direction so that we can actually do it. So we can say, right, we need 2,000 new customers at a 70,000 $70 CPA this
Hmm.
month. It all
Hmm.
lines up. It's like, okay, to get $70, we need this many new creatives. We need to go and buy
Mm,
it this
got it,
way.
got it, got it.
It all ladders up to
Okay,
the,
okay. I see what you're saying now. Okay, okay. That's great. And I know you are a huge passion in this whole acquisition retention. Can we maybe get nerdy here, just get to the math a little bit?
yeah,
So
love it.
I know, when it comes down to product, a lot of people like to throw these out there, and I just want to break it down so it's not really that complicated. There's CAC, that's acquisition cost. You
Hmm.
have your ROAS, that's your return on your typically
That's
your
it.
first acquisition, right? And then you also have lifetime value where people talk about, and then MER basically is making sure you're profitable after taking those margins
Mm.
out. Um, Now, one thing, can you break it down for people? And I know this is a very, very simple math, but a lot of people get it wrong, surprisingly. Why is it a bad idea when your ROAS is good and your business is still losing money?
Yeah, yeah.
How does that
Well,
happen?
how does that happen? Yeah, there's a couple different things, right? So the ROAS, is a function of two numbers. Is going to be your spend and your revenue, right? So it's one has to be higher versus the other. That's how you're kind of working that out. If you have a high ROAS, one of the numbers is not, I'm sorry, high ROAS and a losing money. One of the numbers are not lining up. Either the ROAS is not high enough, or the actual how you're acquiring that ROAS is different. So if you look deeper into ROAS, it's new or returning customers. It's how much are you spending to acquire that customer, or how much are you spending to get that customer to return, and then how much are they spending. So the question I kind of look back to is when you talk about MER, that's a more profit and loss question, and I think it's
Yeah.
one that I would make sure that you're very clear on two things for your MER. How much can you spend to acquire a new customer? But then how much are you spending as a percentage of your overall revenue? So say you make 1 million in a
Hmm.
month. Just say that these are make believe.
Hmm.
We'll call okay. Say you
Sure,
make 100
sure.
100 grand in a month, right? If you're making 100 grand and you spend 20, you have a 20% MER, which is kind of standard. You say you're
Hmm.
spending
Yeah.
20% of your gross revenue on ads. Okay, so where's the other 80%? So the other 80% might be going on product. So you might have we'll call it a 70% cost, probably a bit high. You probably look at, it's called a 50% cost. So now you're down to
Yeah.
30%. So every
Right.
30%, are you looking at that as profit? No, you've got other things like you've got expenses. So you need to be able to spend on expenses and everything else. So you're going
Right.
to try
Right.
and work out where your profit is and go, okay, so this is the level I need to be able to spend at to actually make any money in my
Hmm.
business this month. Okay.
Right. Right. Right.
What we do is that's
So
how
let
you
me
break.
just stop you there for a second. I think what you were saying there is, like simplify. It's basically saying that there's a cost associated with your product, right? Whether it's marketing product itself, shipping, everything all included. You just gotta make sure what is that bottom line is for you to at least break even before you spending more money on the marketing, right?
The good way to look at it is kind of if you own a lemonade stand. Say you were a kid on the street and you own a lemonade stand. It's very simple economics. If you come and say, right, I've got my stand, I've got my lemonade, and I've got my person holding the sign. I sell a lemonade for 50 cents and it cost me, I went and bought all the lemons this morning. I bought them for 25 cents a lemon. And it takes one lemon to make one
Right,
lemon.
right.
My margin is
Right.
50%.
It just simply cannot cost more than 60 cents for you to sell any new customer for your lemonade,
Exactly.
right? It is a
Absolutely.
simple math, but a lot of people don't get it on their business. They will be like, let's only chasing CAC, let's only chasing ROAS, right? But the danger of that
Well, there's a
is that,
potential for that. Just sorry to cut across you there. There is a potential for that in some instances, right? Because sometimes, I mean, especially in earlier on, and if you and in high growth periods, you can only focus on new customers because if you know you know a 6 month LTV, people are going to come back two, three, say call it two times in 6 months. So your sale or average lifetime value over 6 months is instead of being $100 is now 200. Okay, great. I can guarantee
mhm,
on average that's what it is spend into acquiring new customers at a much higher level once I have the cash flow.
right, because you push
And
the
then,
ceiling higher, right?
exactly. But then we know that those customers are going to come back in a couple months. But that's one of the things where people then misnomer and people kind of say, oh, like I can't spend too much more to get new customers, but I can't spend on existing
Mm.
customers.
So
You
let's
need to get
let's go back to
profit.
this lemonade example. So your lemonade you sell for 50 cents, right?
Hmm.
And you actually can afford to sell first lemonade for 60
Yeah,
cents because you
yeah,
know they're gonna come back for the next lemonade,
yeah,
right? Without you
yeah,
spending any more money. And
yeah,
if you
yeah.
know, sort of looking at your history, in average sort of aggregate some gas where you sort of know like, okay, it typically seems like our customer will spend 3 4 times. Now that number goes a lot higher than your original CAC, right? Because you acquire a customer not just for one time buy, you acquire a customer, it's a
Multiple.
client that where they,
Yeah.
they potentially can interact with you over time.
Absolutely. And the other thing to say on top of that is there's a rising boats effect where you have, I suppose, a halo effect where you have, say, you have five people in the same place where they're all buying three, four, 5 times, and then they're talking about it, they're creating content, there's a flywheel that you're trying to
Okay,
create and build that out because
right,
those people are telling each other, and the whole thing starts to rack up. Once you do that correctly and
right.
manage that properly, it doesn't just happen by accident. But those people are
Mm-hmm,
going around around town telling you everyone how good your lemonade is, and you're going to keep buying it,
mm-hmm.
and that's going to keep pushing
Yeah,
up. So there's
gotcha,
an
gotcha.
inherent business growth that happens outside of ads that you can't measure specifically, but knowing that
Mm-hmm,
it's
mm-hmm.
happening, especially if you're growing
Right.
at a certain velocity.
I, I think what you're saying here is that, and I think we can break down that CAC seeding where you can actually expand that a little bit more beyond just
Hmm.
the first purchase. I think a lot of people in a marketer, they tend to think about just really just that first purchase, and then even comes to channel attribution, ROAS. But the thing is, like, once you look that number down, okay, there's a life cycle, perhaps longer period of time they can come back. So you can actually afford to spend a little bit more. But I know once you're starting to talk about this, we get into
Hmm.
this whole retention game because you know that acquire and keeping someone it's just as important, sometimes even more important when it comes to
Mm.
scale.
Yeah, well, I mean, we this is why we kind of set up Oaks, and so say we set it up, we realized with Webtopia we're doing that customer acquisition game a lot, and it was working. We were driving new customers, we were kind of seeing sales going up and up, and we're launching new products with our brands and everything else. Where we started to see a problem was every time we did that, we faced retention teams that were just not getting emails out, or they were facing problems where the person didn't really kept sending sales emails. It's like that's not going to grow your business, your customer. It's not going to get people bought in the right way. So what we did was we said, right, we're going to go and get our own a retention agency. We acquired Oaks from a lovely woman called Molly Nutt, and she was very passionate about retention, and she had another agency, so she was like, "Look, I need you guys to take this over," and it worked out very well. And so what we've done now is we've been able to say to partners that we work with, hey, look, you've got a world class media buying team, a strategy team, and everything else. What we want to be able to do is say to you, right, we're going to be able to take over your retention and not only just send emails out, but understand what a life cycle would be like for a customer. So we acquire that customer based on value, or we acquire them based on them liking the product or whatever. We start serving those
Sure.
customers certain types of emails. We start there's
Hmm.
certain touch points throughout the year, or we start to bring them through an SMS journey as well. So there's kind of an understanding or more consumer psychology required for retention marketing rather than focusing too much on kind of sell now, sell now, sell now. So many people come in and be like, I can make you $50,000 in the first month. It's like, yeah, you can, but what about month 3 and 4? What about month 6? So
Why do you need them to be in the same, like, is it because you notice people don't talk, like the email team don't really talk to my experience is they don't.
yeah,
Most people
yeah.
have a cleaver, like a, like email vendor they use somewhere else, and they just think
Yeah.
it's secondary, last minute kind of thing they think
Mm,
about.
mm. So what we do is we have a very clear connection between the two. They're in the same Slack
Mm,
channel. They're in the same, they're
sure,
not the same building because nobody is, but they talk to
sure,
each other very
sure.
clearly. They've got the same values in terms of they want to build businesses. They don't want to just sell a bunch of emails and then hopefully that works. And then the focus here is actually the growth of the businesses that we work with. I think the benefit of having this is like when you start working with either company, there's a shared drive that we can get in to look at the detail of the designs, understand who the customer is, who's the ICP, and
Okay,
how are they selling the
sure,
customer profile.
okay.
I
And you
think
got
that
that on both pay side and email, and
yeah,
to have them sync in terms of messaging.
yeah, and I think the thing as well to say is like the shared learnings is really important. So having an internal team, there's always the argument of saying, well, I can get an internal team that will talk to each other every day and do all this. Well, when you can
Mm,
do that, when you don't have that as a fixed cost in your business, and it's a lot more in a variable side of things, I think that can work an awful lot better. I think the other side of it as well is when businesses are really hurting at the moment, where they're like, okay, we just need to make profit. We just need to make whatever we can. But the problem is by trying to drag profit forward, what ends up happening is that the people will last for 2, 3 months. And as this kind of recession is happening, the problems that are happening in the world keep going because it's not going to just stop one day. They're gonna struggle and they're gonna have no other levers to pull, and they're like, it's not working anymore. So
yeah,
we
often like your best ads is stalled and start working,
best as
getting new.
stalled. You've targeted all your existing customers. They're not going to buy from you anymore. It's costing you more to get
Yeah,
new customers
don't
in.
got any new reach.
This is it. The net new reach is going down, and like there's a noose tightening around businesses like this. They started in COVID. They started just after COVID because they were like, everyone can sell online, which was great. And they got to, 2, 3, 4 million in revenue and then went, where now? I can't scale. And then everyone, they go to Twitter or they go to Reddit and they see all these amazing screenshots and they're like, why can't I get that? Why is mine so different?
Hmm.
And one of the things that we
Hmm.
found is that, typically what they've done is they've tried to get short-term wins and they've gotten short-term wins, which is great. They get a new agency and the new agency comes in and understands how they can get short-term wins. But it's that longer-term strategy that we try and bring in there. We obviously have the short-term wins, make sure you can pay for it, but then it's having that longer term growth. Some of our partners that work with us are kind of with us for 3, 4, 5 years. We started this
Hmm.
business in 2019, and some that started with us are still with us. So it's very
Gotcha.
much the
I
approach that
totally
we
believe in that. Yeah, I mean,
yeah
I totally believe in. I mean, if you look at the scale, and it's both for DDC and service, especially, like keeping your clients longer is so important.
yeah
Often, marketers don't think it's their job. Marketers often think retention is more of your business job, right? Because like you
yeah
sort of take care of your customers, do your thing.
yeah
I'm curious about like why are you doing anything beyond email? Like, do you do also SMS, WhatsApp?
yeah
Like, what's the
yeah.
bet on email in the future?
I think that one of the things you will see is that now that Claude and everything else and even ChatGPT have started to be able to generate a lot of AI creative, I think the future of kind of email and retention generally will be kind of threefold. I think email will adapt, and we'll talk about it in a second. We'll have SMS used in a more sparing way. I think push notifications will be there as well. So a lot more kind of if you can get people onto an app or if you have someone that is a bit more connected, I think there's a bit more history or future into that. I beg your pardon. So just talking about the first one in terms of how we adapt our email. The first thing I say on that is we want to make sure that we're adapting timing. It can't always just be like we'll send this at 2 o'clock on a Friday. It has to be predicted specific for these people, and there's
Okay,
endless
cool.
amounts of ways of timing emails for the person that you're actually emailing to. Klaviyo have a really good marketing analytics tool that you can actually use where it allows you to time it based on the person you're sending to, which actually works significantly better than just sending
I love that.
on a standard. Um,
Honestly, I'm so guilty on that. I often don't. go as far as like as deep into that. I feel like that's probably
Mm.
one area like people need to really think through more in
Yeah,
terms of
yeah. Well,
when that email become a
personalization is key. Like it's, in a world where
right.
it's like, the especially in America. I'm in Ireland, obviously, don't get that much
Mm,
advertising. I'm in a green field
mm,
here, but I know in
yeah,
America, I go there for quite a lot, and whenever you go there, you turn on the radio, you drive by billboards, you have ads on your phone, you
yeah,
have
yeah, yeah,
ads
yeah.
everywhere. People
Okay,
being
so walking me
bombarded.
through like how do you get more favored by LLM in email? Like I know ChatGPT, like Gmail, they all have some chat function that robot that will summarize your email and kind of decide what you need to see selective, like
Mm.
all of this. Like how do you kind of like making sure you're catering to that and getting more selected by
Yeah,
LLMs?
good question. I guess there's a couple different things to that. First of all, is longevity in terms of first, like I suppose I'm starting at the end, but I'll come back to the start. But it's the more people are opening your emails, the more likely they're going to be to be surfaced in the inbox rather than in promotions. I think the other thing then is like making people to want to open your emails. If you keep sending them offers that they're not interested in, they're not going to want to open it, and they'll start to rot and rot and rot. The way you're doing that is sending people content that people are actually interested in, that they're opening and clicking through to. So that's really important as well. One of the things that we're doing a lot of testing is inbox testing at the moment, where we're segmenting, staggering sending to see. We're seeing a really good success with it at the moment, where you send a shorter list who are much more engaged, and then we send a longer, like to a much larger list, and that seems to be working quite well with one or two partners at the moment. I think
Mm,
that's more of a tactic though, rather than an overall strategy. The strategy needs to include content that people are interested in. Be it Memorial Day. You're talking about this is how we're celebrating Memorial Day, and you're not just celebrating with a sale. Like celebrating with a sale, they're like you're just consumerist. There's much more to a brand than just a sale.
you're just
So
like
that's
everybody else, yeah.
exactly. So the content marketing needs to really come in there, especially with the droves of AI content that's coming out at the moment. It needs to feel real. It's really important for that standpoint. The having people clicking through, opening the emails, spending time on it, you're allowing the AI bots to bring it up. Obviously, the tactics can involve when you're putting in any images or content, it needs to be a readable for the AI, so that when it goes through it, it's like this is what your email is about. So you have your alt text and you have your actual HTML text in there as well. But I think they're the couple things that we're doing at the moment that's pretty big. I mean, there's some shady companies that do things where they put like code in your emails, and that's okay. Like
Hmm.
it's fine. I think there's a means to an end on that one. I think Gmail will start to rule that kind of stuff out, but they'll constantly try and innovate on that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, your strategy will win out if you start talking more about content and actually looking more about how you can get people to be interested in your brand, not just for this what they can buy from you, but it's a
Okay.
media style company. So I think it was Gary Vee
How do you
said it.
get there? Like deep down, do you really just like heads down, read through clients'
Yeah.
data, just really think through it and really have a clear why and really
Mm,
have a very good understanding of how these are from bottom up,
exactly.
and then you're starting to have a very good reason on why you're writing these stuff and all that.
Yeah, I guess the thing I would say to you on that is like exactly that is like have a deep why. People buy why they don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it, right? That's the biggest
Mm,
thing that I would
yeah,
say.
yeah.
When you get to that level and you start identifying with that with your content, that's going to be your biggest driver in terms of what content is going to resonate with people who are messaging me or are messaging. Sorry, we yet to
Mm,
get into SMS and push, but I'll talk about that in a second. The content that you're putting out across all of these has to resonate with the why that these people bought into. And then I will say on that as well is like when you're actually creating that content and actually getting into that, I think like I said, I was about to say that Gary Vee said something a while ago. Every D2C or e-commerce agency or company in the world will have to turn into a media company. So you start putting that media out, people are consuming that stuff from you, and then they're going to start buying from you more frequently. This doesn't necessarily work on
hmm.
a one-off purchase brand, but on a more like a bigger brand that you're trying to get people back over and over again. That's where the content comes from. That's where the activations come out of, and that's how you grow.
It sounds
So,
like you're leaning towards also a little bit like, this sort of halo effect, as you were saying earlier. Like,
mm,
like if you don't think about every handshake, it's just a one-time deal. You sort of about this journey, this experience. How can I continue to support you how can I continue to support people like you in this community? And then you're starting to create contents around that to also
Yeah.
support some of these missions.
Absolutely, yeah. I think look, the thing that ladders back to is like, okay, how the tactics that we do and the strategy we create all has to ladder back up to the why. We didn't talk really about SMS there, but one of the things I will say is that people get giddy with SMS. It works once, it works twice, but if you keep texting people, they'll be annoyed. I know if I keep getting texts, people are going to be annoyed at me. I'm going to be annoyed at the people that texted me. The thing I would say to you is, look, use SMS sparingly, but be a lot more clear on your segmentation there. Who's interested in this product that you're texting
Gotcha,
about?
gotcha.
Who's in, and
Okay.
even when you're telling, like, if you're telling them about something, the content needs to be written in a way that's true to the brand. It can't just be something you whipped
Yeah.
out of ChatGPT and launched into your SMS. The way you
Hmm,
go,
hmm, hmm.
that will work, like I
Yeah.
said, for a time, but it doesn't feel authentic. The brand in a
Yeah. It
world
sounds like
where
you're
you can
saying like the SMS, like the tolerance for authenticity is much, much higher. That if you're fake, people are gonna realize
does
right
off
away
really quick.
and they
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
tolerate that.
I think the thing to say is like in a world where a brand can be whipped up in less than 5 minutes, literally a brand content, a feel, an image, AI will generate it all in image. The generate like the feeling behind a brand has to be more and more authentic. So the authenticity across the board through your ads, through your website, through how people talk about your brand, not just you talking about yourself, people talking about your brand, has become
Yeah.
so much higher, so much more important than ever before because the everyone's just creating beautiful brands really, really quickly, and it kind of there's a means to an end on it, but it's definitely something that's really kind of pushing the boundary, which I love because it means that people can
Doesn't it
work with
seems like the this doesn't it seems like the oldest, like the concept from the 80s and these like cool branding ideas kind of coming back now, like
yeah,
it's like we
yeah,
sort of like kind of give it away because it's like it don't matter, you can just like
yeah,
write whatever the shit you want these days,
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
I am starting to feel, especially this year, there's screaming for this sort of really figure out what exactly are you existing, why do you exist, why do people
Mm,
care about your exist, and how can you share that in a way that makes sense to you. And I think that it can be so easily misunderstood as just visual color and all of this, which is important. But I think you got to really take a step further. Like, what
makes sense.
truly,
Yeah.
why do you even exist?
Exactly. It's why do you exist, but then it's a step further than that. Who cares about it? Like who cares? So,
Yeah, who cares about that? Yeah.
it's like why do you exist? And then the popularity has always been the thing. It's never going to go away. But if you look in the who's the popular kid in school, who's the most popular person on TikTok and everything else like that, that's where influencers start to come in. And I guess there's a really good video guy called Kevin Alaka on YouTube. He used to be the trends manager on YouTube, but he talks about tastemakers, which are influencers, and then communities of participation. These are reasons why things go viral on the internet. There's a third part, but I won't go into it. But those two things, so tastemakers, when it talks about influencers, once they match up with your why and they're talking about to a community that are interested in what you're doing, that's where things can actually happen and make things go a lot more viral. That's the way that it's wired into your brain as to why you would like be interested in this. Oh, 10,000 people like that. Oh, and Justin Bieber also likes it. Must be cool.
Hmm,
So you always,
hmm.
and then if it speaks to their why, it really speaks to who they are. They're much more likely to buy into the brand, and that's something that I think from a marketing standpoint
Yeah.
is was missing for so long because people could spin up a drop shipping company in no time, but actually now the
And
brands
this
are
this spin so fast as well.
yeah, damn
Yeah,
straight.
we all spin so fast, and I feel like it seems like the coolest marketing idea is the one that is very basic things, comes back to whatever that shit that you had in your mind that could be cool, and like stay really, really firm to that. I really starting to see this trend everywhere, like service, product. People are telling me that the coolest marketing idea isn't like the most shiny, biggest, screaming one. It's the
Mhm.
one that truly felt like, wow, this felt relevant to me.
Yeah, yeah. I think the thing to say as well is perfect video, perfect content isn't cutting through anymore because perfect content comes from AI. And so what people want to see is they want to see real. They want to see like shit that's not
Yeah,
like a perfect girl looking gorgeous talking about a wonderful this like that's
yeah.
not real. Like walk away.
yeah,
But if you see
yeah,
a guy or a girl going across the beach holding the thing, being like, "Wait, and I tell you about this product. It's really, really cool," and they can feel it.
yeah,
There's a thing where they talk about the understanding of language and understanding of like anticipation of someone's why they're not
hmm,
connected in the brain. They're two different parts of the brain, and so that's
yeah,
why when someone goes, they can feel something. That's the difference. They can feel it, but they haven't got the words for it because it's not connected.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And in
yeah.
AI, that kind of misses that. You can't fake that. And
No,
that's where I think we'll win as a race, as humans will win
yeah.
over AI in that one.
I think what you were saying really resonated with me, man. Like I think it's like we are at this age where we want both things. We want excellence, right? We want to solve the issues. We want efficiency. We want that, but we also want trust. And the
Hmm.
trust has to come from unpolished. So it's kind of contradicting in a way, but I think they're not. Like you gotta really, really, really look down and saying that my goal here isn't about making a Hollywood movie. My goal here is making sure that whatever the shit I create, actually people are gonna understand and it's gonna
Hmm.
relate with them understanding how I can solve their issues.
Absolutely. One of the things I've seen most recently work very, very well is the skincare brand. And it was the type of creative that came across was she was in her hotel room and she was put the phone down and was like, so she was talking about like, what all the stuff and everything else. Like basically went on a long story and she was just videoing the long story. But towards the end, she was doing her makeup. And towards the end, she kind of goes, "Ooh, I do look kind of good, don't I?" And then she's like, "This is the lipstick that I got." It was, and she picked it up and showed it, and then put it down again, and it just felt so like just part of her story. And then she moved on. That worked really well because she wasn't talking and selling that. She was just, by the way, this is this thing, I whatever, and then moved on. And
Yeah,
it felt so like I, as a marketer, was like straight away, I was like, ad. I see an ad. But then the world is obviously not going to see that. They're just going to be like, oh, she's just mentioning this. And that's how I
yeah,
think that the
yeah,
cut through can come in. It's a lot more authentic, a lot more real. And yeah, like at the end of the day, we go back to the circling back to the thing we said, like why I do what I do is I love building businesses, and all of this ladders up to building businesses in a sustainable way, in a way that you're not spending more dollars to acquire customers,
mm,
not spending,
yeah.
making sure they're understanding. And I guess that's the fun thing. I started back, you know, back in the actually in this room. I started back about 20 years ago, um, wondering why people do what they do. I still don't understand, but I think I'm getting close.
And it's constantly changing too, don't you think?
Yeah.
You know,
Oh God.
like
Yeah.
sometimes now we are really, really destroying all the marketing that we were taught, 10, 20 years ago. Everything
Yeah.
is really contradicting from each other,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
just how it keeps evolving. But it also comes back to sort of what we were saying earlier, this can be very shiny, very colorful, very everything at the end of the day. Deep, deep, deep down, the core marketing is still the same. I have a niece and
Yeah. I think it's the thing is like it. Oh yeah, go on. Yeah, I was gonna say deep down, it's well, we're all still humans. No matter how much AI you bring in or how many things you change, we're
yeah,
always going to be the same. So it'll all come back to the same thing eventually.
yeah, and I think one thing I I want to bring just one more last point, and then I think I want to kind of maybe wrapping this up. Like we talk a lot about this sort of AI. To me, it's like AI in the advertising is creating a superficial fake perfection, which is
Hmm.
very easy for us to human to detect. And I think it comes back to everything. It's like human experience. However imperfection it is
Hmm.
what pretty made who we are. Like no AI is gonna able to understand what it's like to have all these struggles and then have the result at the end of the day.
Absolutely, absolutely. I couldn't agree more, Leo. I think this is the thing. What like the imperfection is what makes us real, and I think I'm in love with Japanese culture, and one of the things they design things with a thing called wabi sabi, and it's a perfectly imperfect. I think that embodies exactly all of the things that we love about the world as humans.
Yeah,
Perfectly imperfect.
yeah, yeah. Perfectly imperfect is always gonna stay ahead of the AI.
Absolutely.
Sweet. I think let's just end it on the high. Dude, I really appreciate you. You're awesome.
I love that.
I
I
could
love
chat
that.
with you forever.